What's going on, guys? I'm Jaye the Black. Salute to everybody that is tuning in. I'm going to talk about Sage Steele once again. I did a video about Sage Steele on my Basic Social Politics with Jaye the Black channel. I'll link the video in the description. I spoke about how in an interview she did with Jaye Cutler. Yeah, Jaye Cutler. That Jaye Cutler has a podcast. And she discussed how basically she got the jab against her will. Because she didn't want to do it. But when it got closer and closer to the deadline and ESPN was going to fire anybody that did not take the jab, she felt compelled to get the jab. Okay. And she spoke about it on Jaye Cutler's podcast, and that ruffled some feathers. Okay. So today I came across a tweet, and I actually retweeted on my Twitter timeline. Make sure y'all follow me at unofficial Jaye on Twitter. And it spoke about how ESPN has removed Sage Steele because she caught the CV even though she is fully jabbed. She's fully jabbed, but they still remove her from her post on ESPN programming. That's a bit of a coincidence, isn't it? But let's get into this article from the NY Post, and we also going to talk about how people see Sage Steele as a headache for ESPN. Her interview is a headache, and I think ESPN did too. And they saw her getting the CV again, even though she had the jab, which shows me that people who talk about how you need to get the jab, and you're still getting the CV, lets me know that what's the point of forcing people to get it then? But according to the NY Post, says ESPN is having direct and private conversations with anchor Sage Steele after she made controversial comments involving the company's CV jab mandate, former President Barack Obama, and woman journalists recently. At ESPN, we embrace different points of view. Yeah, right. Dialogue and discussions makes this place great, ESPN said in a statement. That said, we expect that those points of view be expressed respectfully in a manner consistent with our values and in line with our internal policies. Well, ESPN, you did this to yourself when you embraced the wokeness at your network. That's why you're slowly trying to get rid of certain people like Bomani Jones. And I did a video about Bomani. I'll link that video in the description box too. It all ties into the BS that's going on at ESPN and why they are a failing network. After all these years dominating in sports news, ESPN, you're a failing network and you've done it to yourself. And I believe that Sage Steele really didn't want to have to get the jab like most people at that network, but they had to do it because they had to conserve their livelihood and their income. You don't think people are going to feel disgruntled? And Sage Steele is not one to hold her tongue. Whether you agree with her or not is not the topic here. We're talking about mandating stuff against people's will. That is the emphasis, and she has more of a backbone than a lot of your favorite commentators. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not an anti-jab guy. I believe if you have health issues, then you should get it. But fully healthy people who haven't had a history of health issues, getting sick a lot, should not be forced to get this. This is not something you should force people to get because they're still getting CV anyway. Look at Sage Steele. Steele has been removed from the air and won't appear again for at least a week, according to Front Office Sports, after she tested positive for the CV. Even though you're not supposed to be testing people after they receive the jab. Ain't that what most of you blue check mark weirdos say on Twitter every day? Once you get the CV, you should not be testing. That's what y'all were whining when you were seeing NFL players still testing positive for the CV. So why are you testing Sage Steele again? Is Sage still feeling some effects, even though she took the jab? Playing with people's health. Anyway, Front Office Sports also reported that both ESPN and Sage Steele thought it was appropriate for her to take some time off. Yeah, because you're making people get this jab, when they don't want to, and it's not having the best effects on their health. It's probably, I'm not saying every situation, but you can only imagine what's going on. that people are not saying publicly. Her comments stem from an appearance on the Uncut with Jaye Cutler podcast, where she called ESPN CV mandate sick and said that she received the jab but didn't want to do it. And that's why I spoke about my other video. Listen, ESPN has rules, they have regulations, and I'm not telling Sage Steele that she needs to disrespect ESPN and she needs to call them out like that. But again, people have called ESPN out before who worked on the network and said things. And again, I don't think they had a policy that she couldn't do the interview. And you got to understand that, again, the company has rules and policies. I understand that. But this is different, man. You're mandating your employees get the jab or get fired. Okay? People should play with their health because you want to maintain some type, well, I say maintain, well, there are mandates, government mandates that are spreading to these companies that don't have to do that mandate, but they're doing it anyway because they don't want to get criticized by woke Twitter and the lamestream media. But you're putting your employees' health at risk, but you don't care about that. That's why there was a female college football sideline reporter that ended up leaving ESPN because she did not want to take the jab. People shouldn't have to be in that situation. Most people may end up catching this. Even if you have the jab, they're talking about booster shots every year, sometimes twice a year, from what I'm hearing. It's crazy. Her comments stem from, I read through that. Let's see. Steele also criticized Obama for identifying as black on the recent census and blamed the harassment that women journalists received on their outfits. Let me say this. Listen, I don't care what Obama identifies as. That matters not to me. Again, I don't agree with a lot of the different things that Sage Steele says. I think Sage Steele is a conservative. I think that she's somebody that has her own mindset, her own opinion. Again, she to me, she's infamous for trying to hook up with Jalen Rose on national TV and getting caught, right? But I can agree with her standing up for herself. Now, if she really did not like what ESPN had to say or this mandate, she could have left. But she's thinking about taking care of herself and her family. I'm not one to pursue, but didn't she get a divorce from her husband? You know, I believe she sold the home she had up in Connecticut. I don't know what her personal life is. I could be wrong, but I read somewhere she had gotten a divorce. So she's thinking about her livelihood and how she's going to be able to survive. And that's what's on her mind. I don't think that, I just think that people don't like their health being screwed with. And I think that she had that regret, right? People don't want to have to feel like they're forced to do things. It's not going to have the effect that a company like ESPN think is going to have. Now you got Stephen A. Smith, who's a clown, and you know he's attacking people for not supporting getting the jab. He's a complete company man. He would take as many jabs as possible in order to make his bosses at ESPN happy. Continuing, says, I know my recent comments created controversy for the company, and I apologize. Steele said in a statement, we are in the midst of an extremely challenging time that impacts all of us, and it's more critical than ever that we communicate constructively and thoughtfully. Steele was slated to host ESPNW Women Plus Sports Summit, which takes place on October 18th to October 20th, but it isn't expected anymore, according to the Philadelphia Inquirer. Whether you agree with Sage Steele, whether you don't, I think that I'm against mandates. I think it's gross. I think you're in uncharted territory when you start to play with people's health and force them to put things into their bodies that is not going to be good for them, because it may have an adverse effect. And it doesn't matter whether you like the messenger. At least she's standing up for her. She stood up for herself. Now she apologized, but she stood up for herself. But honestly, if Sage Steele really had a problem instead of going to Jay Cutler's podcast, because listen, I know she, listen, I know that she has conservative mindset, and Jay Cutler may have the same, but it was very easy for her to go on this podcast, which is telling. And Jay Cutler also said something during the podcast. I don't know if he meant it as a slight, or Jay Cutler is one of those guys who he has a very snarky personality. He called her the Candace Owens of ESPN, right? Now, I don't know if he said that as a joke or, there was something to it. Or he felt like she was trying to be the Candace Owens of ESPN. Listen, she should not want to be Candace Owens. I think she just is Sage Steele. She's a conservative in a company that is operated with a liberal mindset and a social justice mindset that's all about doing whatever it takes to avoid controversy from Twitter and not really focusing on putting together the right program with the right people, because they have to have the right ideology first. And also you have a company that has a mandate that a lot of those people don't agree with, but they're going to agree with it anyway because they don't want to get fired. They don't want to lose their jobs. But let me know what y'all think, man. What do y'all think about this? Make sure you comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. Like this video and share it. Also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.